Welcome to the world of Rex. It is Mr. Marvel Rex here. I am so excited to be diving into the weekly energies with each and every one of you listening to this beautiful podcast
Yep.
where we dive into how the astrological archetypes are shifting and changing our lives and how we are changing and working with them. This show is all about empowerment. So here we go. We're going to be looking at the week of July 7th to July 13th of 2025, largely from an astrological perspective with some other cute things, sprinkled in there. Before we dive in, you can always check out the link in my show notes to subscribe to the newsletter, book readings with me, and work one-on-one. I love to go deep with each and every one of you. You can also follow us on Spotify and anywhere you listen to podcasts. The last thing I will say, if you listen to the podcast, you can always Venmo me a cup of coffee at Marvel-Rex. That's Marvel-Rex on Venmo, just to say thank you for the pod. All right, let's dive into the big picture as it relates to this week before we then go day by day. And I wanted to talk about Neptune and Saturn in Aries because they are making a whole sign square to this Cancer season, which we are currently in. The sun is in Cancer. Jupiter's there making this Cancer season extra. I'm really curious because we're about 16 days into Cancer season. I'm like, any of you listeners, if you want to email me, check out the link in the show notes to reach me, comment on the podcast. Just tell me, like, how has this Cancer season felt different than the last 12? Because the last time Jupiter was in Cancer was 12 years ago. So we're in kind of a new paradigm, and we've never really seen this square from Saturn and Neptune in Aries to Jupiter and Cancer. So this is just like a very new, fresh, novel Cancer season where we're focusing on our emotions and our relationship to our family. But again, just totally new. So I'm so curious, like, has anything come in that feels like paradigmatically different? Like my life has changed or my family storyline has changed dramatically. And these are the ways. I'm going to dive more now into Neptune and Saturn in Aries and how they are toning such a unique Cancer season. Again, focus on the family, like security, emotional security, how we build our own nervous system up after trauma, how we heal and tend to our ability to handle conflict, especially within the home. We got to talk about Neptune and Saturn because they are in what's called a dominant square to this entire Cancer season. A dominant square, so a square is 90 degrees, an aspect between two planetary bodies. So they are 90 degrees away from the Cancer planets. Neptune and Saturn, they are dominant because they are making a square from the technically the let me get this in my head, right or left, from the left side of the chart into and on top of, essentially, which is dominant, like on top of the sun in Cancer. If they were to the right, they would be in a sort of the sun would be in a dominant position, but the sun is not. The sun is responding or being impacted directly by Saturn and Neptune. And so we have to really understand we have to put all the pieces together of this puzzle. What does it mean that they're in a square to each other? What does it mean that they are in a dominant square? And what does Saturn and Neptune mean in Aries to Cancer? The sun in Cancer, Jupiter in Cancer. In a way, I'm going to just flesh out the players here really quickly. Saturn and Aries is kind of like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, just like a huge masculine archetype, serious, stoic, is like, oh, I'm ready to go fight a war. Like I'm ready to go assert myself. I'm big. I really like Dwayne. Like I think Saturn can be a little less nice than Dwayne the Rock Johnson, but like you just want to visualize this big masculine, almost like a wall of a presence. Saturn has like a lot of associations with walls and moats and like things that block, things that limit. So we have this masculine principle, Mars, which is Aries, within the structure of a structure, a wall, a something that's kind of imposing, dominant, imposing. We have Saturn there being like, we're going to really try to figure out the karma of what it means to be assertive and impulsive over a longer period of time, which I know, again, I've talked about this a lot. It sounds like a misnomer or a paradox. But the interesting thing here is that we are learning how to tango with the masculine archetype, putting ourselves out there, being bold, being brave, being even potentially violent in a way that creates sustainability. Again, I know it sounds crazy, but like this is what happens when you have Saturn in its fall. Like Saturn is in his fall. Basically, that means Saturn is exalted in Libra, doesn't really do very well in the opposite sign of Aries. By doing very well, I actually don't really believe that planets in their fall are bad. I think that there's just really unique ways that they express themselves. So again, we're going to see, you listen to my 2025 year ahead. I talk a lot. You can just look in my World of Rex and type in 2025 year ahead. You'll find it. I talk a lot about Saturn and Aries and masculinity, what it means to be a man, what the masculine codes are, masculinity as it pertains to even people who don't identify as men, what their internal masculine expression is, how they assert themselves, how they assert their individuality. What does it mean to be an individual? Question mark. Saturn's coming in and is like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, like big, explosive here, like, okay, we're going to structure this. These boundaries, we're going to make them different because Aries is about change. It's a cardinal sign, it's a catalyst. So Dwayne is ready to make some change as Saturn and Aries. He's trying to chase and catch up to Neptune in Aries. Now the funny thing is that they don't actually conjoin this year. I believe they conjoin next year because Saturn's going to retrograde and start getting away from Neptune too. So we're not getting the full conjunction yet. And right now, we definitely are not getting the full conjunction. So Dwayne is trying to catch up to Neptune and Aries. To me, is a little bit like an inebriated man, a visionary masculine impulse. I'm trying to think of a good archetype here. I'm getting a little bit of like, I'm trying to think of another star celebrity. Uh, it's giving a little bit of like James Franco in Pineapple Express, where you've got this kind of, oh no, the one that just popped into my head is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Yes, the book and the movie, Fear and Loathing. You've got this character who's got like the big sunglasses. He's like a dude. He's very much like, I'm a man, I'm a guy, but he's on drugs and he's trying to figure out what the adventure that he's on. These two are trying to catch up. Well, Saturn, Dwayne is like, hey, I want to make the dream real, or I want to create some limits around your wild bender that you're going on, Neptune, so that the dream can be realized around how you are expressing your individuality and going on your hero's journey. So Dwayne is trying to be like, we need rules, even though they're impulsive rules, even though they are wild and brave rules. We need some structures here so that we can actually make the dream sustainable and real. Again, revolution around manhood, masculinity, identity in general, and how we perceive of men. I do think by the end of this transit, specifically Neptune, which is about 12 years, 12 to 14 years, we are going to see a markedly different understanding of masculine codes, what it means to be a man, what it means to be male, how to express masculinity. I think it's just going to be like so huge in the transformation. But right now, we're just at the very beginning moments. It's super awkward. You want to think adolescence, like Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Saturn and Aries, cannot catch up to this Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas style crazy character who's on a bender and is like, I'm gonna go on a road trip. I don't even know how to drive, like blah. Neptune wants to realize a new story. That's Neptune and Aries is like, I want a new dream. I desire a new dream. So think about your own life. I desire something new. It's visionary. I don't know how I'm going to make it real. And that's not happening yet. They're in a dominant square to Cancer and Jupiter, the sun in Cancer and Jupiter in Cancer. Now, the sun in Cancer is like the woman of Willendorf, is a goddess figure, is in some ways like, I think of like the Buddha. It's these big, voluptuous, curvy figures who are motherly or safe. Jupiter in Cancer is sort of in a way, has a sort of, it's like Zeus, the best parts of Zeus, the best parts of Zeus. If you read Greek and Roman mythology, Zeus and or Jupiter, you understand, wow, like that's so, he's so kind, he's so generous. So Jupiter in Cancer has this generous quality. It's a little bit more masculine. It's a little less fertile in the way that maybe the sun in Cancer is, but there's still a fertile component. there's a guru and teacher like quality. There's an otherworldly quality to Jupiter. And then in the sign of the womb, the woman, the caretaker, there's he takes on this role of, I'm going to show you what a healed masculinity looks like. I'm going to show you what an integrated, emotionally mature masculinity looks like that makes people feel safe. But they are being dominated by Saturn and Neptune. So these two, although they're like luscious and sexy and fertile and like they want to have such a good time and feel so good and safe, no, not this Cancer season. No, no, no. So there's a dominant square, which means that first off, if we're going to be extremely literal here, the might makes right is in a dominating energy towards people feeling safe and secure. We've already seen this play out a little bit as the year has gone through, especially in the United States with ICE arresting people, migrants, and trying to get them out of the country. That has been absolutely Saturn coming in and breaking up, Neptune coming in and breaking up homes, families, tearing families apart. That is the shadow of this energy. Identity politics coming in and saying certain people are not allowed to be themselves and not allowed to be safe. That is certainly this. I called that out, back in my 2025 year ahead. I was like, and as this is happening, by the way, it was actually reported about a month ago, but this this is when Jupiter moved into Cancer. I know that the Supreme Court is ruling on transgender issues right now, with a case that Chase Strangio is leading, the ACLU. That happened about a month ago when Jupiter moved into Cancer, and I saw that again. I knew that story was going on back in 2024, and I was like, okay, we're going to see a dominating energy from this new paradigm of might makes right. Now, mind you, Saturn is only in this sign for 3.5 years, and then he moves into Taurus. So this is not a forever kind of situation, but we're currently in the beginning moments of a lot of necessary change. Parts of it look really rough right at the beginning because of the dominating square, because of this sort of like, oh, men are going to win, might makes right is going to win, law and order is going to win, these kinds of ideas. That is absolutely on the table. I see it. However, it is not the end because Neptune's going to come into Aries. Neptune's in Aries for a lot longer than 3 years. And Neptune has an eroding energy where it's going to take some of the structures that came up this year, next year, the following year, and is going to dissolve them. So for anyone listening who's like, oh my God, the politics are so fucked up, this is so insane, this is not the end of the storyline by any stretch of the imagination. Neptune is going to come in here and work out parts of this vision of might makes right, the shadow of Aries, men being in charge. Neptune's going to come in and make things like a lot more complicated and is really going to dissolve and create a psychedelia around what Saturn thinks is 100% men, we're in charge, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of a TLDR, longer tangent there. But the energy for us as individuals coming down into the sort of more micro perspective or tribal perspective is we're going to be feeling on a fundamental core level, archetypal level, we're going to be feeling like I have to be Dwayne the Rock Johnson somewhere in my life. Like I have to come in and assert myself in a much bigger way. I'm not exactly sure why, Neptune. I'm not exactly sure why I have to go on this hero's journey, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Like, I don't know why I have to like put on the sunglasses and get in the Cadillac and drive 80 miles an hour, like, down a 45-mile-per-hour road. Like, I don't know why I have to do that, but I am feeling on a core level that I have to assert myself in a different way and be seen. And the square to the Cancer story is my family, the people that I domesticate with, they are going to feel a little rattled. There's going to be adjustments. So squares, going back to the square aspect, are adjustments. So the Cancerian familial woman of Willendorf, I've got you in my womb, I've got you in my bosom energy has to adjust from a dominant square, has to adjust to the identity shift that is happening for all of us because it's Aries on an individual level. That's why this Cancer season will never be like last year's or the year before. There is going to be such obvious. With a square, it's so obvious on the external plane. It's one of the most obvious aspects in astrology. I see it all the time. Like I literally live in the kind of a psychedelic reality where I'm watching astrology play out all the time. And I see squares. They're very obvious. You're like, oh, because they're a fight. Like if you've ever been in public and you've seen like a couple fighting or like a woman crying and a man like freaking out, that's a square. There's a square aspect happening. That's maybe an opposition too, but like usually a square because a square incites behavior. And so we're going to see showdowns this Cancer season. It's already been 16 days. So you might have already in the last 2 weeks been like, oh, yeah, I saw those two like head to head, right? It's July 4th. This just happened last week. Families are together. You're going to see family dynamics shift dramatically because people are sort of coming out in a new way. They're like, this is who I am. And someone else is like, what? You never told me that. Again, like last week, if you listen to last week's episode, there's a lot of harmonious energy in the sky. There's not a ton of chaos, but this is the overriding energy is that there's a shift in identity formation that's creating huge ripple effects into the home, family, tribal dynamics. And then we have to find together, this is the most important point. This is the most important point I could make. We have to find out together how to recalibrate our nervous systems through the change as a family unit, as the people we domesticate with, as a tribe. We have to be like, wow, yep, we had a conflict square. We had a conflict, we had a run-in or a series of them, or like that part of you that you just showed me, I'm really trying to integrate. We're going to do this on an emotionally mature level. And that's the tall order here. How do I do this? If I'm going to make a change around my identity and present it to my tribe and my family, am I going to take accountability for that emotionally? Boom, you could turn off the podcast right there. That's it. I mean, that's it. That's Cancer season for you in 2025. It's bananas. So not easy, but very doable if you're committed to doing the emotional work. All right. So let's dive in to the day by day here. I hope that all made sense. And if it didn't, please just comment, let me know, email me, and I will clarify. So Monday, Moon Day, we have to look at what the moon is doing at the top of the week. It's going to emotionally tone the entire week. We have this the 7th of July. We have the moon in Sagittarius. Oh, yeah. Thank God that all those planets are out of Pisces. I'm just like, thank God for that Sagittarius moon being left alone. But I will say that starting this week off with the Sagittarius moon, there's some nice things and there's some challenging things here. The challenging part is we might feel really directional and focused and fixed on an opinion while all of this familial change is happening. So there's an awkwardness here. So Sagittarius and Cancer cannot quite see each other as signs. Sagittarius sits opposite of Gemini. These two signs are opposite. Geminis and Sagittarius sit 180 degrees apart. Cancer is about 150 degrees apart from Sagittarius, which is called a quincunx or an inconjunct. These two signs do not see eye to eye. Why? It's very simple. If we can keep it very simple. There's multidimensional ways why they're different, but very simplistically, Cancer is all about the security of the home. Sagittarius is about going on a motherfucking adventure. Like Sagittarius is like, I'm going to Bali. I'm going to go jump out of a plane. Like I'm going to go do a bunch of fun shit. And Cancer is, I want to feel safe with my children in my home. These are two totally different urges archetypally. The moon in Sagittarius emotionally is an uncomfortable place during Cancer season because it's like, I really want to break free. I want to get out of this. I don't like how my family's making me feel. F you guys, I'm going away. I want to go on a trip away from you. So it's like, I want to rocket ship out of my life energy right at the top of the week. A lot of people will be with their family. Okay. I'm like looking at the date. I'm like, I will super be with my family. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be with like my extended family right now. So there's gonna be adjustments. A quincunx is always a mystical aspect, mystical being it's not a logical, you cannot logically deduce the emotional tone of it, but there are insights that are non-logical. So if you're feeling, you can have some sort of feeling of intuition of like, okay, that has to shift. I'm not exactly sure why. I can't quite see it, So there's something slightly invisible about an inconjunct, but it is felt. There's like, something's shifting. I don't know why. I want to leave my home, but I'm with my entire family on vacation. I don't know why. This is actually giving me like White Lotus vibes a little bit, especially that third season with the family from North Carolina. I'm just like, this is giving me the Radcliffes a little bit. Where you're with your family, but you're like, I want to escape, but I also don't know why I want to escape. So a little awkward at the top of the week. It's going to tone the entire week. My advice for the moon in Sag is find ways to expand without throwing the baby out with the bathwater. So reading a book, taking a course online, going on a trip. It's hard during cancer season because like your family, it's like family is so centered during this time. But like going on a trip, maybe a day trip to get away from the family. You're like, I'm gonna go drive to this other town. I'm gonna check the town out. I'm gonna come back. Maybe you go with a friend. Like loosening the energy up without being like, I gotta go. I'm out. Bye bye, and making it really dramatic. So that would be my advice overall during this time. So keep that in mind. It tones the entire week. Now, the moon in Sagittarius is in really positive flow to Saturn and Neptune. So, like asserting ourselves, you want to be really careful with rigid belief systems and also placing your opinions on others. So, there's a strong fire trine in the sky between Mercury and Leo, the moon in Sag, and then these Aries planets, outer planets, including Chiron. So we can be really hot and fiery and putting it out there, saying it as it is, like straight shooting. Mercury in Leo just says it. I've dated a few Mercury and Leo people, like, wow, they just let it out. So, things will be said. I would be really careful about being super rigid. And then again, the shadow of Sagittarius is being like, my opinion is the truth and you're stupid. Like that's the shadow of Sagittarius in a nutshell. Um, so just be careful on Monday. I would really recommend. Now, we also have Venus and Gemini. Just something to keep in mind that we are adjusting from emotional truths relationally from the last couple weeks, just adjusting and being like, I have to try new ways to relate. I have to try new ways to be in partnership, even with my family, because Venus doesn't just roll romance, she rolls all kinds of relationships, every kind of relationship that you have. So you want to be flexible. You really want to be flexible here when it comes to like, let's go and try something new. Let's learn a new skill together. Let's do something random and weird and spontaneous this week, especially Monday, Tuesday. Sagittarius loves spontaneity by itself. So if you can induce or sort of inject a level of spontaneity into the week ahead, it will do you a lot of good, but not spontaneity in terms of like being like burning the house down, being like, screw you guys, I'm going to do this spontaneous thing. I'm going to dip. It's like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to go back to the family. Cancer season, the dominating energy is to tend to your family roots, your epigenetic karma, and really contending with how you were raised on a deep level. And then, of course, like I said last week, Mercury in Leo is a lot about expressing your inner child and its passion. So that's going to be very active all week. Now, what else? I mean, it's kind of a quiet week. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing, full moon, right? I was like, there's something that happening this week. It's really quiet planetary wise. Last week to me was more exciting, but we do have a full moon. And the full moon opens. By that I mean the portal of the full moon, not the exact conjunction, but the or opposition, but the exact moment that the moon moves into Capricorn is going to be on Wednesday, July 9th. We get the moon entering Capricorn. It looks like in the wee morning hours on PST. So I would say for the EST folks, we've got this entering in right around, it looks like 8 a.m. for EST, about 5 a.m. for PST, and then adjust for your time zones. So we get the moon entering Capricorn early morning on Wednesday, July 9th. This opens up the full moon portal. So let's talk about this full moon. This full moon is happening technically on July 10th. It is happening at 18 degrees of Cancer Capricorn, close to a fame point. Let's back up. Let's back up. I got to back up on the pod. We got to go back to Wednesday because we have to talk about the moon opposing Jupiter first, and then the moon will oppose the sun, and we have a full moon. This is a full moon with Jupiter involved, and it's kind of a full moon with Chiron involved. So we'll talk about that. On Wednesday, July 9th, rewind, we have the moon opposing Jupiter on Wednesday. Moon opposite Jupiter is actually a very workable aspect. It often, in an opposition, means that there's some sort of emotional revelation or learning moment through an opposition, which is one on one, through a head to head experience. So I would pay attention on Wednesday. What is coming up for you emotionally as it is being projected or transferred onto another person? Cancer archetypally is ruled by the moon. The moon is a reflective planet. It's a reflective body, like planetary body, that reflects the light of the sun. That is what a full moon is, right? We get this like full illumination of the moon through its relationship to the sun. Cancer reflects emotional truth to others. So if you are a Cancer sun, moon, or rising, a big core part of who you are is a reflective, you are literally a psychic mirror. I'm going to take that from Halo Rossetti, who listens to the podcast, like a psychic mirror. So you are reflecting people's psychic moods, their vibrations, all of those things. During Cancer season, we all start to kind of reflect to each other, which is why the family unit is so intense, because there's a psychic kind of gunk. Like if you've ever been in a family, if you currently are raising a family, if anyone who's been in a domesticated situation with other people, you're tapped into all kinds of vibes in the house all the time. You're like, oh, okay, my baby doesn't feel good right now, or my partner's being a little weird. That's Cancer. Cancer is picking up like a honing system, all the emotional moods at any given moment. During a full moon in Cancer, it's illuminated times 10. With Jupiter there, it's illuminated times 100. So it's like boom, boom, boom. We're all now psychic mirrors and we're reflecting to each other emotional truths or emotional stuff from the past that needs to get worked out. And it's really hard to integrate. Like that's a part of it. Cancer has a nostalgic component to it, i.e., it's tied to the past. So if we're having an emotional revelation on Wednesday, it could very well be an epigenetically inherited experience, could be ancestral karma, could be related to your mother or father, either one, where you're like, ooh, this feels cyclical. That's another Cancer word is cycles. This feels cyclical. This feels like it's bigger than me. How much am I projecting? That's a really good question already on Wednesday to be like, how much am I projecting onto others? Like, what can I really own here? And are people projecting onto me or transferring their emotions onto me? It's really hard. I do this work personally. I have strong Cancer in my chart. I have strong Capricorn in my chart. I've been doing this work my whole life. It came really into the fore the last 12 years, 12, 14. That's actually a Jupiter cycle. It's interesting. Yeah, last 12 to 14 years, I've really been working on parsing out moment to moment what is mine as a Cancer person versus what is my partner's or my family's. It's not easy work. It takes time, which is, Capricorn's deal, not Cancer's deal. Cancer's like, but things are always changing. My mood is always changing. I'm always emotionally shifting. But Capricorn's like, it takes time to figure out what is yours and what is not. So it takes time. It also takes a lot of communication about being like, hey, this is where I'm coming from. How are you feeling? What's going on with you? And that can help clarify whether it's yours or not, right? So there's a slightly logical process to this, even though it's about the emotions. And I would recommend by Wednesday, by that opposition from the moon to Jupiter, trying to clarify and being like, okay, so this is where I'm at, getting clear about where I'm at. Where's this other person at? I'm curious. So that moon in Sag is not inherently curious. That moon in Sag is I have a kind of a directional arrow shooting off in one direction opinion about what this person's doing or thought. I have like an expert lens on this, which means I'm not here to learn. I'm just here to be an expert. That's like so in conflict with this energy. This energy is like, okay, I need to learn, Jupiter. I need to learn from the reflection of my family and the reflection of the people that I love. I need to learn about my emotions on a deeper level because of this opposition. It's not easy. This is not easy energy by any stretch of the imagination. It's not crisis. This isn't crisis. It's not easy because it's about our deep emotional sense of well-being. And how full is our inner well? So every single person, in my opinion, sort of has an emotional well. Like they have a an internal emotional, it's kind of like a window of tolerance inside of them where they are carrying their emotional rhythm throughout their day, and their ability to regulate their nervous system indicates how much water is in the well, right? How much they can give. As an actor who's really hell-bent on being a leading man means that you're top of the call sheet. You're number one or two on the call sheet. You are literally leading and holding an entire story together with your acting. There is so much responsibility, Capricorn, that comes with that. But actually, the real work is the emotional presence being on set. What is it like to experience the lead actor? If the lead actor is a dick, and I've heard so many stories about so many A-list celebrities that make me upset because I'm like, well, how can you treat your cast like that and your crew? You know, Cancer and Capricorn in their most exalted form. Capricorn is the brick and mortar of the well. It's the actual bricks that have been laid down to contain the water, which is Cancer. And to be a leading man or a leading actress, leading woman, you have to have a certain level. You have to have a pretty high window of tolerance. You have to have a lot of water in the well because you have to really set the emotional tone for the shoot. It's your responsibility. It's also the director's to some degree, but you're the lead. So for me, I'm always working on, okay, how can I build more water up in my well, i.e., how can I be more emotionally generous because I've done my own healing and I'm not holding a bunch of gunky baggage that's like plugging the well up. Or there's like, I think of like a lichen or not lichen, you've got sort of bacterial algae at the bottom of the well. We got to clean that out. This full moon in Capricorn Cancer is going to show us whether we're taking responsibility or not for our emotional state. And there might be some severe adjustment required, especially because there's Aries planets. We've got Saturn, Neptune, and Chiron. So we're going to be held accountable. We're really going to be held accountable. This will probably feel pretty personal for especially the cardinal signs, Cancers, Capricorns, Aries, and Libras, but it's going to feel personal for everybody because this is about inciting, catalyzing change in our emotional satisfaction in relationships and whether we have boundaries, so that we actually have a brick and mortar that holds the water of the well. It's a lot on the plate. It's always kind of intense with the cardinal signs because they're about inciting new storylines. So new storylines are being illuminated on this full moon. Wednesday is going to give us a lot of breadcrumbs as to how Thursday is going to go. So that opposition to Jupiter is like, are you humble enough to learn something? Okay. And then the next day we get the actual perfection of the full moon. So that's happening, like I said, at 18 degrees of Capricorn Cancer. It is in a loose square to Chiron. So there's something here that's painful, but also healing. Feel it to heal it. That's what I would say about this full moon. Like if something comes up that feels personally very hard, it's the discomfort moment where you're breathing into the discomfort. You're leaning into the discomfort and you're like, okay, ooh, that triggered me. Gabor Mate, who is like such a good example of Chiron and Aries, in my opinion. Gabor Mate talks about, he's a psychologist and I think specifically works with trauma and epigenetic trauma, as well as I believe like children. He works a lot with the emotional intelligence of children and healing children emotionally, giving them tools to deal with trauma. Gabor Mate talks about if you are triggered, it's because you have ammunition inside of you. You would not get triggered if there wasn't bullets. And this is very Aries. I'm using war metaphors here. If you didn't have bullets inside of you. So when you get triggered by something or someone, you want to first stop. The first thing, and I always do this with myself, not always, I try to do it as much as possible. I'm like, okay, I got triggered. What about me is getting like, where's the ammunition? Where am I keeping this trauma, this unintegrated part that I'm not aware of, that's like really throwing me off? What healing do I have to do? This full moon is going to illuminate the hell out of that. And it's about making different choices. Again, the cardinal signs, you want to think of the word catalyst. They are catalyzing a new scenario. Okay. It definitely has got to do with family. So for you listening who are like, oh no, I've worked through all my family stuff. No, that's never a thing that we are done working with. It is a forever thing in life. And this is a cycle that is going to show us where there's deeper work to do. And it is a gift. It's medicinal because it's going to help us have a more stronger sense of self, Aries, on the other side of this lunation. So whatever comes up that feels really trigger happy and hard, there's an opportunity to build up the water in your well and to build a stronger well in general. Then you'll just have a lot more capacity for other people. You're also going to feel more intimacy and connection in your life, right? That's how that works. The more emotional healing we do, the kinder we are, and the more we receive back from the kindness and generosity that we give. All right. So that's going to spill out through the weekend. That's really the last highlight of the week. I like this full moon. I do not think this is a crisis full moon. I just think that we have to take responsibility, which is Capricorn. The moon in Capricorn is like, please take responsibility for yourself and please set boundaries, not from a place of being vindictive or from a place of being emotionally reactive, but from knowing your self-worth and knowing that if you are not valuing yourself, you actually can't value the other people in relationship with you. All right. Is my Capricorn showing? Yes, it is. I've got strong Capricorn in my chart. All right. I love each and every one of you. If you are feeling this full moon and it's a little spooky, feel free to check out the link in the show notes to book a reading with me. I'm actually an expert when it comes to Cancer Capricorn stuff because I have so much of it in my chart, including my nodes. So I'm here to help. I'm really here to help clarify this energy for folks. So check those links out. Please send this podcast to anyone who is maybe going through it, maybe with family, maybe figuring out their own emotional healing style. This podcast can be of help to them. And again, just check out the links in the show notes. They are awesome. And share this podcast. We appreciate it here at the World of Rex. And speaking of the World of Rex, I will say it one more time. I will talk to you next week. Yes, next week, as always, on the World of